Imagine inventing a wonderful machine, something far ahead of its time, a machine that could change the world. Then imagine having your machine stolen from under you and being ordered to never talk about your invention to anyone. Well, it happened to Las Vegas inventor Bill Horton, who was on the losing end of a battle with heavyweights Howard Hughes and Richard Nixon. It's been kept secret for 45 years until tonight. George Knapp has our story.
Contrary to what you see in these vintage film snippets, this odd-shaped contraption is not flying. The U.S. government maintains the plane was incapable of flight. This authentic patent certificate cannot exist. The government says no such patent was ever issued. And this inventor, tinkering with his turboprop masterpiece, cannot speak. The government ordered his silence for nearly half a century.
There's nobody could match it today. Nobody's got this principle. And the aerodynamic data is all secret.
Bill Horton says he first got the idea for a wingless airplane as a boy. In 1938, while working for General Motors, he showed his employers plans for the plane. That's when he met an American icon.
He fell in love with the airplane. His big dream was to become the world's biggest aircraft manufacturer. And if this wingless airplane could fly, it could take over aviation.
Hughes put up $3 million and told Horton to sell stock to raise the rest. They set up shop at what's now the John Wayne Airport with the aim of building a prototype. Horton did much of the work himself.
It took 11,000 hours to build, over 3,000 welded joints in it. And it was a steel frame airplane covered with a fabric skin.
The plane wasn't really wingless. The wings were retractable to reduce drag in flight. Aviation experts scoffed at the design and declared it would be too unstable to ever fly. Horton proved them wrong. He obtained government permission to make short hops just feet off the runway, enough to convince everyone the plane had potential. The FAA approved longer, higher test flights. Among the first to hop aboard were the governor of California and the money man, Howard Hughes. An ecstatic Hughes declared afterward the plane would no longer be the Horton wingless.
He said, Bill, this is my money, and it's going to be done my way. I'm going to be the boss. It's going to be the Hughes wingless, and you're going to be the chief engineer.
And you said?
And I said no.
Horton's obstinance proved costly. Hughes first attempted to block Horton's patent application. After the Joint Chiefs of Staff expressed interest in the plane, Horton went to Washington, where he was met by Hughes, a pair of goons, and Richard Nixon.
Nixon was trying to persuade me to do it, be sensible. You got to let Howard run this thing. And when I wouldn't do it, they had me beat up again there. Almost killed me.
Horton didn't go down easily.
Oh, yeah, I got some licks in, sure, I got some licks, especially after Howard.
But in the next round, Hughes scored the knockout. The Securities and Exchange Commission came after Horton for selling stock, which had been done at Hughes' suggestion. In 1954, a permanent injunction was issued. It declared the Horton plane was incapable of flight and that Horton was barred from ever talking about his invention. Horton went to prison.
This is my arm. This is it.
Today, he is finally free to tell his story. How that happened tomorrow. George Knapp, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
Amazing.
Fascinating.
Amazing.
Cool off. See your Southern Nevada Dodge dealer.
Late billionaire Howard Hughes reportedly boasted that he could buy anyone in the world, and those he couldn't buy, he could destroy.
A Las Vegas inventor claims that he was on the receiving end of Hughes' formidable power and that he's been paying for it for nearly half a century. George Knapp has more of our look at aviation engineer Bill Horton.
And this is what Howard, he went wild over this.
If Bill Horton seems the typical oddball inventor, it should come as no surprise that he would design a strange duck of an airplane like the Horton wingless. The early 50s press compared it to a flying saucer. Aviation experts predicted it would never fly. But the throngs of airplane buffs who came out to see its modest runway jaunts seemed to sense this was something special.
There's no airplane in the world today that could match the aerodynamic power of the Horton wingless. It still holds the world's record for lifting the most weight and the least fuel.
Horton says his partner in the prototype was billionaire Howard Hughes, who took one of the first rides in it. So did the governor of California, assorted congressmen, reporters, and staffers from the Joint Chiefs. This letter confirms the Joint Chiefs wanted the plane for the military.
Research and development contracts were beginning to cook. That's when Howard he broke the partnership.
Horton says his partner preferred the name the Hughes Wingless, but the inventor refused to sign over the rights. He says Hughes enlisted the help of Richard Nixon to try and convince him. When even a physical beating failed to change his mind, Horton says the SEC came after him over his sale of personal notes for the prototype. Horton claims the sale was first proposed by Hughes and Las Vegas attorney Harry Claiborne in the presence of SEC official Charles Burr. Burr later helped the SEC go after Horton, whose attorney for a time was the same Harry Claiborne.
The SEC commissioner, a guy named Charles Burr, told him to raise some capital in a certain way, which is an interesting thing, because if there was a way that you would want to have a hook on somebody, you'd get them to do something that was later impermissible.
Attorney Kenahan was hired by Horton to evaluate the SEC's permanent injunction, handed down in 1954. The injunction included some oddities, including a statement that the plane had no patent pending, untrue, and that it was incapable of flight.
That's fascinating because prior to this, the governor of California, a man named Knight, had been up in the plane. The FAA inspectors had been up in the plane. Hughes had been up in the plane.
Worst of all for Horton, the injunction demanded that he never speak publicly about his plane again. The court ordered the seizure of all wind tunnel and test flight data. The plane itself made a final flight to McCarran Field in Las Vegas. This film shows Horton with a small model. While Horton spent 18 months in prison, his airplane was dismantled, its parts destroyed. Even after prison, Horton kept quiet. It wasn't until this year that attorney Kenahan discovered that the injunction only applied if Horton was trying to sell stock. It meant Horton could once again tout his brainchild.
Sure, I want to build another airplane.
And just maybe the Horton Wingless will be airborne once again. George Knapp, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
Most of the people involved in this story are no longer alive, so it's tough to confirm some of what Horton says. However, attorney Harry Claiborne still lives here in Las Vegas. He denies ever working for Howard Hughes, but he remembers that Horton was a client. Meanwhile, Horton is working on improvements to his plane and hopes to file additional patents. We'll keep you posted.
Remarkable story.